Welcome to Listworthy's explanation of Project Power. The movie begins at a secluded location in New Orleans at 3 a.m. A man has gathered a bunch of drug dealers together and says he is giving them his drug for free and that they may sell it if they wish. One of the people gathered, a blonde guy named Newt, wants to know what the drug is called. The nameless man tells him it is power. A pill that grants superpowers for 5 minutes, the only catch being that you don't know what sort of superpower you'll get. A few hours later, the New Orleans police line is blowing up with reports of people having some weird reactions to a pill they took. 6 weeks later, a teenage drug dealer named Robin is nearly robbed by her customers seeking the pills, but she is rescued by a police officer named Frank Shaver, who is a friend and one of her regular customers, who gives her a bike as payment for her pills. During the day, in another part of town, a man named Art seeks out Newt, who looks awful since the last time we saw him at the beginning of the movie, like 5 minutes ago. Half his face is burned off, his hands are shaky, and he is a nervous mess. Art is looking for the mysterious distributor behind the pill known as power, but Newt is not keen on cooperating, so he and Art get into a struggle of sorts. Art chases Newt down with a shotgun, but Newt takes one power pill and activates his power. Newt's power is that he can turn into a human torch, like Johnny Storm from Fantastic Four, except he can't fly or control his flames. He is literally just a man on fire. Anyway, after he takes the power pill, he turns the tables on Art and starts chasing him down. When chasing down Art, Newt notices his flame starting to waver, so he takes 3 more power pills and continues his chase. Despite this, Art is still able to overpower Newt by shoving him in a tub full of water and turning the shower on. When Art again demands to know who his supplier is, Newt says it is a person called Big Man or Biggie, but before he can say any more, Newt explodes due to overdose. Art walks away from the explosion mostly unharmed, but the same can be said about the building, which Newt accidentally lit on fire. As it turns out, Newt and Robin are cousins. Robin and her mother see news of the fire on TV, but they do not realize that Newt is dead. Robin is a high school student. During one of her classes, she texts her cousin, but Art is in possession of his phone, so he pretends to be him. As she is texting, her teacher catches Robin with the phone, and he ends up humiliating her in front of everyone. So, like any hot-headed teenager, she storms out of the class instead of surrendering her phone, which is totally understandable. I mean, no teenage drug dealer would ever think of surrendering their phone to a responsible adult. Meanwhile, Frank Shaver is one of the cops called in during a bank robbery when hostages are taken. The bank robber is on power, and his ability is that he can blend into places like a chameleon, which essentially makes him invisible. Frank is able to catch the bank robber, but ends up suspended from the force for using the illegal substance himself. During his encounter with the robber, he got shot in the head, but he survived. This was witnessed by his fellow officers, and that is how they found out he was using power. Frank's captain reveals that government personnel have been putting pressure on him to terminate any investigation into power, and gives Frank a picture of the man they suspect to be the source of the drug. The man in the picture turns out to be Art, but as we know, Art himself has been looking for the distributor of power, so the fact that he of all people is the suspect is hella confusing and suspicious. Using Newt's phone, Art is able to lure out an unsuspecting Robin and abduct her. He threatens her life and the life of her sick mother Irene, so she decides to cooperate with him and leads him to a cartel safe house. Art asks the first guy who comes out if he is Biggie, but the man says no, Biggie is the supplier, we're just the distribution guys. Things escalate from there and there is a shootout between Art and the cartel's men. Once all the bad guys are eliminated, Art finds some computers in the back of one of the cartel's trucks and discovers that power users throughout New Orleans are being monitored as test subjects for the drug. So that explains why at the beginning of the movie, Biggie was giving drug dealers the power pills for free. He wanted lab rats, and said lab rats will unknowingly be part of a demonstration for new big wig buyers. While Art is distracted by this new revelation, one of the cartel members who had taken a power pill before getting shot heals rapidly from his wounds and attacks Robin and Art. Art manages to kill him when his 5 minutes of power are up, but he is badly wounded himself and in desperate need of medical attention. Robin is about to abandon Art to his fate, but he pleads with her not to leave and tells her that he is just trying to find his daughter Tracy. When Robin points out that he killed her cousin Newt, Art reveals that he didn't kill Newt, but that he overdosed on power pills. After hearing the truth, Robin's heart softens towards Art, so she stays with him and patches up his wounds. As she does this, they bond and he tells her about himself. He used to be in the military, but after he left, he was recruited by Telios, a private defense contractor who experimented on him to create superpowers. His daughter Tracy, born after the experiments, exhibited superpowers without ever taking the drugs and was abducted by Telios agents. Frank goes to Robin's house and finds Telios agents harassing her mother and masquerading as cops. He is able to get rid of them, and as they leave, he manages to plant a tracking device on their vehicle without them knowing. Frank, Art, and Robin all end up at the demonstration, where a girl tries out the power pill and gets the ability of thermoregulation, turning her into an ice bender like Elsa from Frozen. Biggie, who is conducting the demonstration, literally mentions the movie Frozen. When Art does what Art does and starts shooting up the place and all hell breaks loose, the chamber that keeps the girl stable and warm malfunctions and the poor woman freezes herself to death and nobody even notices or cares. Art interrogates Biggie at gunpoint and learns of a ship called the Genesis, but Frank interrupts Art and tries to arrest him. Distracted, neither notices when Biggie takes a power pill that turns him into a giant, forcing Art, Robin, and Frank to flee as Art kills Biggie in an explosion. Frank arrests Art and informs his captain, but Art explains that the power epidemic in New Orleans is nothing but a mass testing to stabilize the drug, and that Tracy, his daughter, is the source of the drug's power. Art manages to convince Frank that his captain is on Telios' payroll by pointing out the ridiculousness of being the only cop sent to apprehend a man suspected of being behind the power pills. He also predicts that instead of taking him to the precinct as his standard procedure, his captain is going to order Frank to take him someplace else, where Frank will be killed and Art captured by Telios. When the captain orders Frank not to take Art to the police precinct, Frank realizes that Art is telling the truth and that his captain is dirty. The two make a plan in which Art allows himself to be captured by Telios and taken to the Genesis, while Frank and Robin also secretly sneak onto the ship. Art convinces a guard to free him, and together, Art and Frank kill Wallace, the Telios agent who kidnapped Tracy, while Robin finds Tracy and reunites her with her father. When the four attempt to flee, Robin is captured by Dr. Gardner, the head of Project Power, who demands Tracy in exchange for Robin's life. Art takes a power pill and unleashes his ability, which kills Dr. Gardner and all her men. Robin is rescued, but Art's power, which is arguably the strongest scene in the entire movie, depletes him and he dies. But Tracy resurrects him with her own power and they all escape the ship together. A few days pass by and Frank intends to expose Project Power to the press, while Art and his daughter decide to move on. He gives Robin his truck and a bag full of money to cover her mother's medical expenses, telling her to use the greatness inside of her. Art and Tracy then depart, finally free, and that is how the movie Project Power ends. Critics haven't received the movie very enthusiastically, but I give it a respectable watchability rating of 7 out of 10. And although Netflix hasn't announced plans for a Project Power sequel, and the ending pretty much wrapping everything up, there is still a lot to explore in this story, because it is doubtful that killing Dr. Gardner, means the end of everything. Art's daughter Tracy can literally bring people back from the dead, and it is doubtful that whatever powers were behind Dr. Gardner would ever let such an asset just slip through their fingers. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the future. Let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments below.